Hi, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I have the chat window up this time, so hopefully it'll work out. I don't think I can chat into it though, because it won't let me sign in. It's being difficult, but hopefully, if people come in, I'll be able to see what you say and uh, answer any questions you may have or comments and whatnot. So I'm going to be working on this oil painting that I started a few days ago of Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Um, and before I get started, part of the painting is still wet. Um, so what I'm gonna do before I get started, anyways, is just kind of look at my reference and see if there's any major changes um, that I might need to make. Like there's like been one thing that's been kind of bothering me. It's gonna be harder to tell from the angle you guys could see it at, 'cause I'm shooting this at an angle, but um, like I kind of have his head maybe like a touch wide. It could be a little bit narrower, or I can kind of like lengthen it up a bit. So that's like one of the things I see that I might make an adjustment to, and as well as like the nose might be a touch wide as well. Currently, though, it does fit the features, so that's why to me it looks like it works. But when I look at the reference, if I want to be like super picky and try to get a better likeness out of it, that is one of the things I will have to work on changing. Um, I'll be back in 1 second. I need to find my hand support thing. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. um, yeah, I got just major hand problems. That's why I always have to use like a wrist thing now these days. Okay, so I guess I'm going to start by just mixing up my paint. Probably I'll start around the nose area too. So I want to start to get a brighter highlight from that rim light happening around the nose. So I'm just kind of mixing up a cool white, not using straight out of the tube white, because I don't want it to be that intense yet. And I just need my trusty stick here to help get a little bit more control in my mark. So, I'm kind of just like studying. I probably should get a little bit thinner of a brush too, because the rim light is actually pretty thin around the nostril. Let's see what I can got here. And I might have to bring it out a little bit as well too. So even this brush is probably still just a touch thick. But that's okay. So I can always come in on the other side of that nostril and butt up next to that highlight to thin it down. Or the other way, I can mix up the skin tone and kind of carve in on it as well. I don't know, I'm pretty excited football's back. It's like one of those things, like we do like a family fantasy football. We don't draft our teams though, we do the auto draft. Just because it's just easier on everyone, and but it's always exciting because it's like one of those things that kind of still gives me that Christmas feel. Because it's like, oh my God, what team am I gonna get? You know, what are the other who are the other players my family are getting as well too? So it gets pretty competitive. So being very delicate right now around the nose area. Just gonna take a quick measurement from the corner of the nostril here, the one on the right. It's close. So I'll probably just move that over to the left the slightest bit. Okay, yeah, so I'll probably just start mixing up some skin tone. So I want to try to do my best to mix the tone close to what I already have, which can be challenging too, because you kind of have to remember what you did prior. But mixing paint can be pretty forgiving, though. Just takes practice. Like, I don't use the same type of mixture every time I mix a skin color. I always just observe and do my best to either paint it like the reference or the model, or if I'm doing like a specific mood to the piece, and a lot of those color hues could shift quite a bit depending on if I'm trying to key it a certain way. And sometimes you just gotta put that mark on there and see how it looks. Not bad. It's probably just a little bit, maybe a touch yellow. It's You know what? I might go with it. I think I kind of like it. If not, I can change it later. But I think it helps get a little bit more variety into the color variety into the skin tone. So I do feel like it's a touch light. It's like a lot of this is just kind of like trial and error. As I keep like readjusting the colors I'm adding. Now I know you guys can't see that, um, unfortunately, but yeah, that's a lot better now. I'm also having to deal with a lot of glare. I don't think it looks too glary on the monitor, so that's good. But like I had to change the lighting setup a little bit to do this, and it's just frustrating me because it's just super glary. But I think I can deal with it though. And I know it can be kind of like nerve-wracking when you're painting over the next layer, I should say, on the next day. But if anything bad happens, I can just still, you know, take a paper towel or take a brush and kind of like scrub it out. But I always get a little bit tense when I start painting over some dry paint, just because I'm afraid of ruining what I have. But it's like, you know, try to let that go and not be so concerned because when I do get too concerned, I start to get too uptight. And that's not what I want to be right now. I also have, I'm also referencing a couple artists that I have on the monitor as well too that I'm using for like inspiration or whatnot to help along in the painting. So I got like a Sargent, a Fetchin, etc. I'm trying to get back into having more other artists opened up while I paint. I used to do it a lot, and then I kind of got away from it for a while. Even though will still do sketches and master studies, sometimes that stuff doesn't always translate over into your work. So that's why I'm starting to reopen that stuff up to help give me ideas. It's always good to be referencing other people's work as well too anyways. I don't know, for some reason I just had a thought like the skin tone hasn't bothered me so much. Just when I look at the reference, but part of me still feels like it might be like a touch on the warm side. So I might do quite a bit to cool it down. Maybe I just need to get some more cooler tones in there as well too. That's probably the more of the issue. They actually have quite a, let's see, you got 11 colors out, which is a huge palette, but it's still quite a bit. A lot of times I actually like to work as minimally as possible. It always kind of depends on what I'm working on, but like for me though, when I work in, say if I go really minimal, like a Zorn palette, only 4 color, I like to do that more because it it takes a lot of the guesswork and thought process out. Um, Mainly because you have 4 colors, so your options are very limited on what you can mix together. It's like, okay, does that piece of information need to be warmer, cooler, yellower, or a little bit redder? Like you don't have a whole lot of options. So like that's one of the things I really like about painting in a minimal palette. It just kind of makes the thought process a lot easier. So I see this area around the mouth being cooler, so I kind of want to tone that down a bit. So just mixing in a little bit more. Whoops, that's a little bit too much. Kind of a little bit of blue. Yeah, I think that looks better. A lot of times if you feel like there's too much information, just squint down at it a little bit. Now I'm gonna take another measurement. I'll try to get my hand off. So I'm doing this with a photo reference on the monitor, not the not the painting. Just trying to see how far to the right the mustache part of the beard comes out. It's close. You could probably go back in just a little bit to the right, or sorry, the left. And just gonna jump down into the mouth or the lips right here. I didn't even mean to push the lip in that much. Um, it's just starting to cover up part of the kind of like the black outline I had for the where the crease of the mouth is. And I wanted to push up that little light spot. Also trying to get a little bit of red into the dark area just to help get some color interest. It helps kind of help it breathe a little bit. So I'd say I'd probably have put maybe um, 4 to 5 hours into the painting so far. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that. It still has a ways to go. Uh, I'm not sure how long. Sometimes you never know how long these can go. Sometimes they can be quick. Sometimes they've been taking longer. Lately, everything just takes me longer because I've just been more uptight. So I've been trying to loosen up because when I get uptight, it just for me, slows a lot of the process down. I do think the likeness is coming along pretty well, even though I have a few. areas I may adjust. Especially like, could probably drop the philtrum here a little bit down. And that's the other thing too, when you're depending on how particular you want to be on your likeness, um, that can help make the process longer because your shapes and everything have to be well placed and well designed to get it to look like, said person. But again, it kind of depends on how far you want to push it. Uh, to me, there's like multiple stages of a likeness. There's, a likeness that looks like the guy. Like, for example, if you have somebody with like a top hat and a dark like chin strap beard, automatically you can be like, that's Abraham Lincoln, right? Um, but there's always gonna be like, okay, how much can you get to look like him as well too? So there's always, to me, there's multiple levels of getting a likeness. Now the thing that does kind of bother me right now too, so part of the paint is still wet. The mouth here is probably dry, and like, maybe a little bit, but right now it's just. I might actually just put a little bit of oil on it to help bring back that value, or bring back the doesn't look so dull. Can't think of the correct word. But basically bringing some life back into it. So if you're newer to oil painting, sometimes they just dry a little bit dull. You just had to mix a little bit of oil. It's generally called oiling. You'll hear people use that term. It just helps bring those shadows back. But I also did approach this painting a little bit differently than what I normally do. So I'll kind of just discuss that, kind of why I make some adjustments here. Um, so I kind of started with um, let me, let me recount the steps first to make sure I don't skip anything in my head. Um, yeah, I kind of actually one way was what I normally do. I kind of had a slight drawing put in, but it wasn't like a well thought out drawing. It's just a quick way to start, get the piece going. So I started with a quick underlying like construction to get like the big shapes and proportions down. And then I kind of took a big brush and started just massing in the dark areas or the shadows. And then I kind of then I just started pushing color around first. You kind of see like the background is a bit thin still in certain areas from that initial like scrubbing and pushing it around. But I didn't thin any of the paint though. Everything, at least for that first pass, it was just very scrubbed and pushed around. So I was trying to get some of that energy I feel like I've lost lately, or that I want to get back into my work. So I felt like that was a good way to start it. And then I kind of just started pushing all the shapes and refining them out as I went along. So like I said, I didn't have like ultra refined information. I just kind of started with a quick construction and layout and went from there. Yeah, I'm just reading a question real quick. Yeah, I'll probably do more photo for my Patreon. I'll probably end up doing more photo stuff, not all master studies. Um, I mean, I have some of those older ones up there, but yeah, I'll be going back to photos soon. Um, Probably after I find a model. It's been kind of difficult in my area to find a model, but I might just, there are some free uh, usable reference sites. I might pick out some photos as well and start drawing portraits from that. So I think that mouth is starting to look better. It's definitely not done yet, but I think the shape is coming along. I still might actually push because I still see a little bit longer of a philtrum shape. So I think I'm still gonna push this down. I might actually I'll do that right now because what was I can see now that I'm taking another look at it is I see the philtrum needs to be a little bit longer still, as well as the bottom lip is getting a little bit too big. So kind of glad I picked up on that now. So I'm here. I just got kind of a clean brush. I'm gonna start to just kind of push that information down. I'm also seeing like the nose here might have to go up just a touch. So as I can see in mine, it probably even looks even more angled due to the angle I'm shooting this at. Excuse me. But I can tell that the nostril now here is coming down too far. So I have too great of an angle here, where I need to get back to more like this angle and the angle on the lips. So I'll work on correcting this area. First, I need to move that mouth down. So again, don't be like afraid to make mistakes. You know, I just made a pretty decent mistake, or something I didn't notice earlier, whatever. However it happened, it doesn't really matter. Um, but it's like I saw it, and now I'm just going to address the issue. You don't want to ignore, especially if you know something's off. It's never going to fix itself. So the sooner you take care of it, the better. And you know, why not screw up during a live stream and fix it? I'm so glad the chat works now, though I was afraid it wasn't going to. So I can even see like that part of the mouth, and that's why I thought um, I measured the mustache part, and it was a little bit too long. But I can see the mouth maybe getting a little bit too long as well too. So I'll just push that mouth back in. All right, now just taking like a relative skin tone. I didn't take anything specific off my palette. I just want to start pushing it over. Yeah, I think I'm gonna actually push it down quite a bit more. Probably looks pretty funny on the monitor right now on the stream. I'm just kind of making a mess. Yeah, actually, I'm just gonna knock it all back. What's nice about the mouth area, though, it's all due to the facial hair and the upper lip. This whole area is pretty dark. Even though the facial hair is in the light, it's still pretty dark value. So I can just knock this all back and then start to hit some of the light areas to help pull out the upper part of the lip. So I've been using the same brush this entire time around the mouth. It says it's small. I'm just kind of sticking with, smaller. I think it's just a flat. Yeah, it's a pretty small flat. I could probably get something bigger and just scrub the whole thing, but right now I'm just being a little bit more, I guess, cautious. Okay. Now I'm gonna get back to my thinner round and see if I can get that upper lip part a little bit better. I still might have to move the mouth down just a touch. And before I actually go too far, I'm gonna take a quick measurement. And again, so I'm gonna see where the lower lip, and I probably did this earlier, like yesterday or the day before. And I'm gonna see where that lower lip goes to with the air, to the ear. So that's the. Sorry, I won't block the painting, but or maybe I'm gonna have to. So looking at the reference on the monitor, not the painting, that lower lip shadow comes pretty close to the ear, to the bottom part of that ear. So that looks pretty close. I could probably drop the ear down a touch. The other thing, maybe one reason too why that some of the skin tones look a little bit different is normally I've been painting this during the day, and so now it's getting close to night. So there's some uh, areas I kind of want to. I won't get them to them today, but like the ear here, I'm just pointing out because the thought popped in my head is looking too. It's almost like too reddish brown. So that definitely needs to kind of get a little bit more cooler red. It needs to maintain the red still, but it feels almost a little bit too like almost like rusty maybe. It's just a little bit too like brownish red where it needs to get to be a little bit more pinky red maybe is a better thought on the color I need for that right there. But that's just something I'm thinking about like nice. The most important aspect of this painting, though, is maintaining the proper values and making sure that doesn't get too far away from me. And overall, the values are looking pretty good. Um, and the overall colors are fine, but like for the most part, it usually comes down to the values being the biggest problem. So as long as those stay, they should be fine. Because you can get away with a lot of things with color. The only problem would be like if I if my colors got too muted and I made them like all these stay bright and then the face got too muted and he looked like a zombie, that wouldn't be good. But for the most part, as long as the values are working well, I'll be fine. I think I'll make a quick note on that ear. And sometimes too, like I'm gonna just put a quick note on that ear that I need to kind of drop it down and kind of change the color. So maybe that little color note might look annoying for a bit. I don't know, but I'm just using it as a reminder because I probably won't get to it in the live stream here. But just as a note, if I work on it tomorrow or the next day or the next time I work on it, who knows? It will probably be tomorrow, but like um, just putting a little reminder on there, a little paint reminder. So I still haven't kind of fixed the lip 100% yet. I'm starting to like the edge work and the softer stuff I got from making that correction. Um, so it was it was a positive mistake. I kind of like how it's starting to look. Obviously, I need to come back and still make some readjustments, but I think there's gonna be a couple areas that I need to work together. So the next part, actually, I'm gonna lift that nose up, or this part of the nostril up just a little bit, so it doesn't look like it's such a strong tilt. So I think maybe the first part in that is gonna push that blue rim light. Just up a little bit higher. That'll help push that nostril up. And the other thing too, I want to make sure, so looking at that tip of the nose, I'm making sure it looks pretty good in relation to where the eye is sitting right now. So I think that, that's good. But again, just going back to the whole philosophy on mistakes, they're frustrating, but again, it's all part of the process and um, part of the learning process. So you want to get used to making them and definitely getting used to correcting them. Because in the end, it's only really a mistake if you let it slide. Uh, all artists are always constantly moving information around. Like very few people nail it right away in a certain degree. Like if I was going less on likeness, I just wanted a cool painting that looked believable, I can get away with a lot more and it would work. But being that I'm trying to get a likeness, it's just going to take a little bit more time. Okay. I'm going to push the tip of the nose up. And I'm not really pushing the tip of the nose up, it's just kind of readjusting the shape. All right, now I got to be very careful here. I'm dealing with a very tiny spot, so I get my stick back out. Okay, sorry. Hopefully, I just got a little disconnection, reconnection notice, but I think I'm back on. So, anyways, back to the tip of the nose here before we got interrupted by the internet. So, yeah, I'm just trying to carve out that shape a little bit more to fit his type. Also, like that information just needed to be pushed up a little bit higher. Same with this, like that little bit of a notch happening in the nose and the highlight. You guys can hear me still, right? After that disconnect. So right now, I'm also gonna kind of carve into that highlight a little bit, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning part of the stream here. So kind of just to help thin that up, I'm just gonna carve into that highlight. It's not looking too bad. Probably should have added a little bit of oil onto the nose as well, just to help bring those nostrils back. Um, so now I went ahead to kind of still readjust some of the information in there. Trying to see what I need to do and want to do. So, all right, you gotta get the stick back out. So I gotta bring that nostril, push it down a little bit more in its shape. Now, what I might end up doing later as well, right now I'm just worried about uh, kind of correcting the information, but I'll probably, so I've just picked up on something else. I might have to push this up just a touch. Or I need to make a readjustment over here. Um, so I need to make sure like this part of the nostril is starting to look maybe a little bit too high compared to the one on the right. So I need to be very careful about that. Because obviously the one on the right here that I'm painting needs to be higher due to the slight tilt downward to the left. It's kind of funny. So like I was in a life drawing session this Tuesday, yeah, this last Tuesday. Um, and it's was interesting watching some of the other people in there. You know, they're not that experienced and whatnot. Um, but it's like when you're trying to draw in general, and you're being a, you know, you want to be either you want to draw a lot from life or from photos. Obviously, you want to be drawing a lot from life, anyways. But like you're trying to be like an observational painter. You want to paint realistically or whatever you want to call it. Like you really have to pay attention to the model. It's funny, you know, I mean, this even has happened with my own students too, and I'm sure I was guilty of it as well when I was younger. But your face can't be planted in your drawing the entire time. You should actually be spending a lot of time observing the information that you're trying to replicate, because you're definitely not going to get a likeness if your head is constantly buried. Your proportions are probably going to be pretty far off. Um, in your drawing, like, everything's going to be off. You're not going to get really good results if your head is constantly buried in the paper and you're not looking at what it is you're trying to uh, again replicate or draw. So again, always take the time to kind of observe. Um, it's all part of the process. Don't feel like you have to rush through it drawing. You'll become much faster the more you observe, and you keep working on your accuracy. Now I'm just trying to think if I push that nostril too far. It looks a little awkward right now. I feel like in the painting, but it might also be that way too. And I just need to kind of um, refine it more. So right now I'm just taking another plumb line to my photo reference, not the painting. So the tip of the nostril right here, keep my hand straight, does cut through the eye there. So that is pretty close. So I think I'm fine with that. If anything, it just means I need to kind of, again, I got to clean up some of the information that some of the halftones need to lighten up. As well as maybe that nose, this nostril, the wing there just needs to be pushed over to the left just a slight bit. And I need to make some adjustments to its shape as well too. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it more, I do see that to be the problem. So that's good. And I'm going to come on the side. Almost cut straight down. Yeah, I think that's starting to look better. So even here too, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right now, but to me, I'll have to look at it tomorrow too, just 'cause I'm used to painting it. Like I said, more during the day, and I won't. Hopefully, I won't have this ridiculous glare on it. Um, but I do see that the nostrils here and some of the information around the nose. I think I will have to, similar to ear. I kind of need to like pinken it up more, get it away from the rusty reddish brown and get it a little bit just more reddier, pinker that you'd expect in the nose. So just looking to see about where that philtrum should be. Again, if I screw it up, no big deal. I can just blend it back into the mess. It does need to be a little bit toned down. I have a little bit too light. I kind of want to darken it up. It may not be placed too bad. The shape definitely needs work still. So gonna just start carving in both ways. Definitely need to kind of raise that corner a little bit. And I think I might just let it sit for a minute or two, or just a little bit anyways, and just kind of see how I feel about it. Like sometimes when you go about correcting things, you don't want to go, uh, too crazy. Sometimes you might think it's one thing, it ends up being something else. Um, Especially if you're again newer at this, and you're trying to figure things out. But like a lot of times, students will think one thing is wrong. It's actually a different area. So right now, I'm just going to kind of get this in there and let it sit in my head and observe it for a bit while I work on other parts of the painting. And just see how it works later. Now this is just a minor area in terms of of the size of the shape. Now if this was like a bigger mass area, like the overall size of the head or the width of the head, those are huge proportional changes to make. Here, this is, I mean, it's an important change just due for likeness and overall proportion, but it's not gonna like or at least it shouldn't theoretically vastly changed uh, the drawing where it's gonna throw off something else. Okay, now I'm not going to touch it for a bit. Going to kind of work on the lower part of the chin though. Or sorry, not the chin, but the shadow underneath the lower lip. Just need to try to think a little bit more before I speak. I kind of need to just slightly readjust the angle. Again, just to get a little bit more of the tilt. Because it was a little bit straight. Again, the change I just made is pretty minuscule, but it does stand out, or at least to me it stood out. And I definitely need to kind of darken up underneath here. So I'm just start mixing up a little bit more of a, I mean, that is a shadow. It's just not super dark compared to like the shadows under the eyes and all that. I think I might have gone a little bit too dark. That's fine though. Just kind of lighten it up. Not 100% sure on the color I mixed up for that yet, but that's okay. I might have gone, I feel like I've gone a little bit too brownish green, at least on this side where it's a little bit cooler. So I'll probably warm that up. I do see some of those colors in there, but I do see a lot more bluer tones as well. So let's just kind of jump back into that and get some blue. Again, I'm trying to keep I've got 11 or 12 colors out. Still trying to keep in my mind a simple thought process of just saying make it bluer, but I'm trying not to worry about which blue. I would only have two options, so not a big deal. I don't think it's looking too bad. Of course, again, like the color here can change. It doesn't have to be 100% identical to the reference. So I'm gonna leave it greener for right now. I did get some of those blues back in there. But again, usually a lot of the lower area in the jaw, the mouth area is can be a lot greener, especially for guys with facial hair and stubble. So right now I'm gonna kind of let that sit again. Again, the most important part is the value aspect too. Um, Making sure that value is, ooh, that's a little bit too light, is close to correct is what's most important. I'm still going a little bit too light. And I'm going to kind of mix up a little bit of the darker brown, kind of blend back in the facial hair, and kind of soften up those edges, at least for right now. You just have maybe I should probably wait on this part, but I'll just start to kind of like scumble in a little bit of a darker tone for the facial hair on the under part of the lip here. Or the lower part of the mouth underneath the lip. So now I just need to get a little bit more blues in there. Probably pushed it a little bit, maybe too green. Yeah, I don't know if I like that color. I also think it's a little bit too dark as well, so no, still too green. I mean, it could work. Just being fussy. What I'm gonna do is take some of that um, shadow skin tone I mixed up and kind of push it into the beard to kind of lighten it up a bit. Still not sure if I like the color or not, but as long as, like I said, as long as the value's there, I'll leave it. And I can always, again, it's not hard to kind of adjust that color if I decide I really don't like it later on. What I'm trying to stay away from though is having it too intense in the chroma. At least for right now. I might still get hit some areas with that because obviously like the blue in the jersey's pretty intense. So maybe I'll come back later and hit some bright spots for fun. But right now, I kind of want to stay away from that though. Why? Because I'm just trying to keep the the color aspect a little bit more under control. But who knows? Maybe I should just go ridiculous and put. Just kidding. Put some bright colors in. I mainly want to stay away from anything too chromatic because I think I want to kind of fix some of the other areas first. But I kind of like some of the interesting color shifts that I have happening down in the chin now. Uh, Not sure how well that's showing up, but to me, you got some nice pinks and blues happening in there in the skin tone. And I kind of need to darken up a little bit where that transition is turning from the chin into the facial hair. It's a little bit more purpley still. And this comes back to, again, like really observing the information, seeing what's there and looking for all those color shifts. Now, that can be a little bit more challenging in a photo, just because photos will oftentimes distort the actual color that's happening. Um, and they tend to like mute things more. But you still get a pretty amount of good color transitions, even if it's a good photo. You might just have to adjust a little bit. So it's kind of just interesting, the light here. This is kind of a challenging light source. Um, I mean, you have a light hitting somewhere from over here, kind of. It's a little bit vague. Obviously, you have the shadow coming down, and then you have that bright rim light. Um, so there's just some kind of interesting things here that's happening, which might, I gotta be careful on how I handle it because there's obviously a little bit of a lighter tone happening right here, which could be from that rim light coming through. Maybe there's a little bit hitting on the chin here. But I kind of need to be careful with that value because, or what I do with that area, because it could, if I make it too much, it could take away from the form of the chin, and I don't want that. And I kind of need to just bring that chin down a little bit. So since I did move that mouth down quite a bit, the thing I need to do, I'm gonna get away from the painting a bit. So as far as my headset will take me, and see to make sure that the chin doesn't feel too small. Um, it's kind of hard to tell right now. I might have to just move this down a little bit, which I probably won't get to because I'll be stopping here in a moment. And that's something like that. I'll wait on it till the next day and take a look. So I think I'm going to do here for the last few minutes is just kind of carve in on the facial hair. So just kind of taking my finger and softening that up a bit. So right now, like I said earlier, I kind of like some of the softer stuff that happened due to me having to make that correction. So I kind of like how that is starting to turn out. I might just leave it, or I'll probably have to carve out a little bit of the lip more. Let's see how I feel about it tomorrow. I mean, I have a better idea once that glare is also off of it as well. It's like right now, if you're wondering why it's so much glare, just have the light. The light's just a lot closer down to the painting than it normally what I had earlier. Okay, so I think I'm gonna call it quits here for this one. Um, yeah, thank you all for watching that stopped by. Uh, I hope it was, educational and somewhat entertaining. Sometimes it can be probably a little bit harder to watch this stage of a painting because it's smaller changes. Just doing more like, again, tiny adjustments, tiny things here and there. Um, but again, thank you all for watching. It probably would again, there's still a lot more to be done. Um, Maybe tomorrow I'll work on that eye, and that eye might have to just I kind of made a little bit of adjustment. That eye might have to just move the slightest bit over to the right now or the left, which is not going to be fun to do, but oh well, that's kind of how it goes. It works still, but it all depends on how picky I want to be on it. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.